Hello and welcome once again to another edition of Old Dudes Know. I am the aforementioned Old Dude and your host, Dave Adams. Once again in the Dave's Library and Cigar Lounge, beautiful Northwest Davenport, Iowa. Today we're going to talk about the United States military over the last 100 years, and what I'd like to bring up is hang on a second before we get started. I have a Cohiba Red. And I have something I was a little scared to try. It's Jameson infused with cold brew coffee. I was a little scared of that because I thought Jameson is almost perfect, and if something's perfect, you don't F with it. But this is very good to have with a cigar. What you have to remember though, yes, it's infused with coffee. Yes, it's got a nice smooth taste. It's still Jameson. So you can't just get you a big cup of this and slam it back. Well, you could. I don't recommend it. And if I do, I recommend going to bed soon after that. So anyway, Jameson. I'm having trouble talking today. This could be a really bad episode. Jameson with coffee, thumbs up. So, think to yourself now, in the last 100 years, or basically since World War II on, the last 100 years, who is the most important military person in the United States military? Now you might think, we had World War II, there was Eisenhower, MacArthur, Patton, Nimitz. If you're a little more educated in military things, you might say Pershing or Arleigh Burke. A few younger people, a little more, you might think Colin Powell or Tommy Franks. You might notice I didn't say any Air Force officers because I realized I only know the name of one Air Force officer ever. Well, I guess probably the guy that flew the Enola Gay was probably an Air Force officer. I don't know his name. I only know the name of one current or former Air Force officer, and that is Dr. Doug Forsythe, who valued member of the community in Chesaning, Michigan, done a lot for the area as a doctor. But he's the only Air Force officer I know, and really didn't have a big impact on our military, although he served honorably in the Air Force. But Doug Forsythe, only Air Force officer I know, didn't make the list. In order to understand, and by the way, none of those, in my opinion, that I mentioned, including Doug, I'm sorry, is the most influential and important military officer in the past 100 years. In order to understand, I think, the most important military officer is you have to understand how the military works. You see stuff in the movies, if you weren't in the military, you might understand how the military works. So let me bring it down to you how it was explained to me. Okay, there's bad guys, right? And at some point, you try to talk to bad guys, say, hey, bad guys, straighten up. We're going to have to do something about it. They don't straighten up. They attack another country or something. Finally, we've had enough, so we have to go kill them. I mean, it's sad, but that's what we got to do. So what happens is they send the Navy over, and we send our aircraft, kill most of them with our aircraft and our missiles. Okay, some of the sneaky bastards hide, though. Okay, so it's hard to hit them with the missiles and the aircraft. So the Navy has another group called Marines that work for the Navy. We send them in, and they kill most of the guys that are hiding. Okay, now there's special forces and stuff, but we don't want to make this a 6-hour, docu series. But then between the Navy and our boys, the Marines, we kill most of them. Then the Army, very important, they come in after we've killed most of them, and they camp out. So the bad guys can't come back, and then they kill the ones that had kind of hidden or stop them from coming back. And the Air Force, I'm sure Oh, the Air Force, sometimes when we're bombing people, the Navy, we don't have enough planes, we'll call the Air Force and they will help us bomb people. So, very important. They also hang out with the missiles and stuff in Colorado and Wyoming. So, but that's how the military works. And for the past 400 or 500 years, the most powerful nation in the world has been the nation with the best navy. The Spanish Armada, the British, on down the line. The reason that Napoleon Bonaparte failed, he didn't really believe in the Navy, and the British beat him with a far less accomplished army, but they had the better Navy. They beat Napoleon. So, obviously, the most important military officer in the last 100 years is going to be from the Navy. And it is Hyman Rickover. Hyman Rickover was born in 1900 in a place that, well, the place still exists, not by its name, it's part of Poland now. Was born there. His family immigrated to the United States in 1905 or 1906, depending on where you read. Maybe it was December, I don't know. But anyway, to get away, the Russians were having a really hard time with Jews. That like they really, really hated them. May have seen Fiddler on the Roof. Not a big fan. The Russians weren't of the Jews. So his family immigrated over. His father was a tailor. They moved to lived in New York City for a little bit, then moved to Chicago, where his father continued in his tailor business. Rickover, working as a youth in high school, became friends with one of the local congressmen. Got him an appointment. He was very good in school. Got him an appointment to the Naval Academy, which is the tech school for Navy officers. He went there, joined the Navy, had several jobs. One of them was on submarines. He was a submariner. Back then, the submarines were diesel. So what they do, they'd come up to the surface, pull the thing up, turn on the diesel, charge the batteries, go back down under it, and then every, 2 or 3 days, you had to come up to that depth and turn on your diesel and recharge your batteries. Well, when you did that, you were pretty much a sitting duck for any surface ships that might be in the area. Well, about that time was when nuclear power, we're coming into the, early 50s now, so Rickover's been in the Navy for a long time, but Rickover comes up with the idea of, why don't we make nuclear submarines so they don't have to come up, right? So he pitches this to another admiral. I think Rickover was a captain or a one-star admiral at the time. Pitches this to Chester Nimitz, who had also in his career been a submariner, and he thought this is a great idea. Flew it up the chain of command to the Secretary of the Navy. Thought it was a good idea. Some people in Congress, now remember we're talking about the Navy, now we're going to talk about Congress. Congress, some smart people, but you don't have to be smart to be in Congress. You just have to be elected. Well, some of the people in Congress are like, well, nuclear, everybody will die, and, the Godzilla movies were coming out. They were pretty sure that if we had nuclear reactors on ships that something would happen and we'd have Godzilla and King Kong and all those. One thing that Rickover legendarily did was he got a glass of water from the secondary of a reactor and brought it in, told the people in Congress, just to show how much they didn't understand, that this was from the secondary side of a reactor from the heat exchanger, and was sitting out there. I guess a few of them were kind of worried that he had it there, and he drank it. For those of you who don't know how nuclear reactors and steam generators work, that was probably way cleaner water than you would have got from the tap in Washington, D.C. at the time. Well, what has this done now? How has this made him so important? Well, so these subs, remember now how the subs used to have to come up? You don't have to do that anymore. Nuclear power does not burn all this oxygen, so you don't have to come up and vent it off. So our submarines can go underwater, and especially like our boomers, the submarines that shoot the missiles, their limiting factor is food for the crew. They can stay under till they run out of food. So harder to find, very quiet. Same thing with some of our carriers. Now it's not food, but if you have a conventional aircraft carrier with engines that burn fuel, you have all these tanks that you need for fuel to maneuver the carrier through the water. If you have a and make the electricity. If you have a nuclear aircraft carrier, you get the steam from the nuclear reactors. That gives your propulsion and your electricity. So all those tanks you had before that you used to have fuel to run the carrier through the water and make the electricity, all that can be jet fuel now. So you can stay out a lot longer, fly a lot more missions without coming in. And this is a big advantage. How big of an advantage is it now compared to the rest of the world? Well, right now, and these are numbers, publicly available numbers, so if you know how the military works, darn it, ours and anybody else's, public numbers and real numbers, you can take them with a grain of salt. But we have 72 nuclear submarines, okay? Russia has 45. And there are stories about the bad shape they're in because they have no money and they haven't done any maintenance. But they have 45. China has 14 nuclear. They also have some of the old diesel boats, but again, easier to find. Very quiet when they're underwater, but easy to find because they have to come up and recharge. Let's see. India has, the United Kingdom has 11, France has 10, and India has 2. So we have more nuclear subs than the rest of the world put together. And some of those I read are our allies, so you really can't count them against us. Aircraft carriers. We have 11. China has 2. China is building some more, so we need to keep an eye on that. China has 2. UK has 2. Italy has 2. India has 2. Russia has 1, and France has 1. So if you add up 11, and the whole rest of the world has 10. And some of them are smaller. Not that they're bad, but they're smaller, a little more maneuverable, but they don't have the firepower that we have. There are many other reasons, maintenance, our missiles, stuff like that. There are many other reasons that we are the kings of the sea. But nuclear power, if you had to point to one thing, using nuclear power aircraft carriers and nuclear powered submarines is the main reason that we are the dominant naval force in the world right now, therefore making us the dominant military force. So, if you haven't read or you don't know about Hyman Rickover, another cool thing about him, he was in the Navy, or actually he was in the United States military longer than anybody else. He was active duty for 63 years. From 1920 until 1983. And then I think he died in 86. So maybe it was 2000, maybe it was 1930, I don't know. But it was 63 years. So if you don't know the story of Hyman Rickover, look it up. I do not have a book. I've read a book on Hyman Rickover, but I do not have it. I probably should have in my minutes of show prep have looked up the book, but Hyman Rickover, common spelling, Hyman, Rickover, sound it out. That wasn't his real name. His name in Poland was like Szymon Rickover. But Hyman Rickover, look it up, Hyman G. Rickover, Admiral, most important person in the U.S. military in the last 100 years. Another segment that we have done, well, we did it once. I said we were going to do it quite often, and we haven't. What's Dave reading? Daniel Silva's new book just came out, Inside Job. I'm about maybe a quarter of the way in. Very good. Got his normal humor, intrigue. Great book. As soon as I turn this off, I'm going to read a little bit more of it. So, now Most important military person the last 100 years, Hyman Rickover. This old dude knows. Now you know. See you next time.